and welcome to the February 16th, 2016 meeting of the Downers Grove Village Council. It's my pleasure as Mayor Pro Tem to call this meeting to order. Unfortunately, due to an unexpected circumstance, Mayor Tully is not going to be able to attend tonight's council meeting. Therefore, we've postponed the 2015 annual report and the stormwater utility discussion scheduled for tonight. The full participation of each and every one of the council members, including the mayor, is necessary for the effective discussion of these items. So thus, we've postponed the discussion of those two items. The remainder of the agenda tonight is going to be unchanged, and we will reschedule and notify well in advance of when the annual report and stormwater utility will be discussed in the future. Recognize that some folks here may be here to discuss the stormwater utility, and obviously we have an opportunity for public comment, so would invite members of the public to address that topic during that general comment period, item number 5 on our agenda. And with that, I'd just like to note we do have copies of our agenda on either side of the room. Please feel free to pick one up and follow along with the meeting. Let's begin. It's our tradition to begin by reciting the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As we start today, I want to take a moment of silence to reflect on the passing of Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia, who passed away over the weekend. Would we all just take a moment and a moment of silence to reflect on his passing? Thank you very much. And now ask our village clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Waldeck.
Here.
Commissioner White.
Here.
Commissioner Bettimo.
Here.
Commissioner Jose.
Here.
Commissioner Olson.
Here.
Commissioner Barnett.
Here.
Mayor Tully.
We have a quorum present. The next item is the minutes of previous council meetings. Is there a motion with regard to the minutes?
Mayor Pro Tem, I move that we approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those are approved. The next item on our agenda is item 4, the presentation of the 2015 annual report. As I announced previously, that is going to be delayed due to Mayor Tully being unable to attend tonight's council meeting. That brings us to the 5th item on the agenda, public comment. This is an opportunity for general comment on items not on tonight's agenda. We'll also take comment at this time if folks wish to address the stormwater utility or the stormwater system. We'll take those comments at this time as well. We'd ask that folks please approach the podium, state your name, and we welcome hearing from you. We also do have a 5-minute time limit, and just ask that you respect that in order to keep the meeting moving and to give everyone a chance to speak. Members of the public, please welcome to speak at this time.
Well, you have to excuse me, I forgot my glasses to read some of my notes over here, but do the best I can. But I'm just here to congratulate the Village of Downers Grove and everybody that's here.
Please state your name.
Oh, I'm sorry.
For the record.
Bob Peterson, 6861 Camden Road, Downers Grove. And I'm also the owner of Liebenguth Moving and Storage, 1301 Warren Avenue.
Thank you.
I'm a lifetime long resident, born and raised 3 blocks from this building. And I want to once again congratulate the Village of Downers Grove for having to be successful and having me erase my signs of Liebenguth Moving on the back side of the warehouse, the front side of the warehouse, so that I can cut my business by anywhere from 20 to 30% of cost, $40,000 to $60,000 of income. And I certainly appreciate that, and maybe someday you'll be able to suffer the same type of consequences in some way, shape, or form, and remember me. The things I want to bring up in regards to, I know it's too late, the cat's out of the bag and you can't do anything about it, but at least I can voice my opinion, is that with completion of probably, as I read in the paper, about 100% of the sign ordinance, you also have 100% of the people involved having to change their sign so pissed off at the village, it's unbelievable. You should go around and talk to some of the store owners here in town and find out how they feel, what they think when they scratch and save to run and start a business, and then they're told they can't do it that much anymore because it has to comply to the village ordinance. The other thing, is the cost that the store owners had to suffer, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars, to change their signs. Some of the signs had to be changed from as little as 1 inch. To take their sign down, they can't have it anymore because of 1 inch. Evidently, there was no leeway for any signs, and the guy that took his sign down that was over by 1 inch took his sign down and it's going to work out of his home. So, which cancels. There's several other businesses that are leaving town. Some I've already moved out of town. The purpose of the sign ordinance was not even compromised, or I should say compromised, looked into from a business standpoint. I'm assuming that people that were in charge of the committee or committees to promote this sign had nothing to do and no any knowledge about businesses, what they had to do. The distance of a building has to be where you see it from the roadway, like out at Best Buy's at 75th and Lamont Road. You're 500 to 600 feet off the road. The same size sign is also 50 feet off the road. That wasn't even taken into effect. The sign on the back of my building was large enough so that people could travel the train, which promoted 1.3 million people passing that sign per year, which gave me business. But they didn't realize I can only have a sign so big on the back of the building that you can't even see it. Makes a lot of sense. I think some of the things that have been forgotten with Downers Grove is Downers Grove was started and built with small businesses coming into the community to do their shopping and come to Downers Grove. But that's slowly going to the wayside, I believe, because of businesses are leaving, fed up with what's going on, same way I am, and just getting disgusted. And I don't think anybody around here goes to the businesses to have conversation what's going on. They have a committee to go out and do something that doesn't know anything about what they're doing, but yet they have to fall in line to what the village wants them to do. And that's kind of a sad situation, I believe. And some of the signs, if you people want to drive around, I've got down here as some examples. The Speedway at Maple and Fairview had a nice big sign, maybe 30 feet up in the air, 4 grades of gasoline and a pack of cigarettes. Now they've got a sign that only lists unleaded gasoline. They probably have cigarettes, but if somebody coming through town wants to buy diesel fuel, they got to go inside and ask if they have it. My other one is the Humane Society. They had a pole sign that stood about 20, 30 feet up in the air. You could see it from east and west direction on Ogden Avenue. Now they've got a sign in the middle of the front yard. It's probably 8 to 10 feet high. You can only see it if you're eastbound. You cannot see it until you're half a block westbound to even see the sign. Somebody looking for it, they've got to go down, turn around, or stop and get rear-ended by some car because they don't know what they're looking for because the sign's gone. And my best one is Teddy's Red Hots. He couldn't have a sign. He finally got approval for a sign. He's got limited parking, and he's got his sign almost in the middle of his parking lot with 4 yellow steel posts sticking out. And I think he's going to hold the lottery to see who's going to be the first one to hit it. In the middle of the parking lot. He had a sign that was on the side with grass and shrubs, but evidently the person in charge of signs over here said he couldn't have it because it was an easement. And as far as I know, to the best of my knowledge, you can't build on an easement. But they had a sign there already. So why couldn't they replace it with a sign? I don't know. That's legal stuff. But that's the type of things that this village has done. You drive around, the signs are so small that they can't see them. They drive right past everything. And the village, I'll just say the mayor, at one of his meetings, I think it was in January, had said that we need to do something for the businesses in Downers Grove because if they don't shop here, They're going someplace else. And that's almost what's happening.
Mr.
What we-
Peterson, your time
What
is
we need in this
well over
town
time,
is a
so just ask you to
high-rise
please
parking
wrap up.
garage where the library is. If you want people to come to town, how many times do they have to drive around the block to find a parking spot before you leave? A high-rise garage is what they need. We're having condos and apartments being built throughout the downtown area of Downers Grove and with inadequate parking. I voiced my opinion on the parking problems when they were talking about Forest Avenue and Gilbert, and also on where the Edwards House was. But it seems to fall on deaf ears. They aren't worried about the price. They just put up a sign, no deliveries between these hours. You can't park a semi. You know, it's something I bring up that nobody thinks about. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Further comment from members of the public? Please, folks, we ask that in order to maintain decorum and not be applause, whether you agree or disagree with the speakers coming forward.
Hi, my name's Angelo Manswell. I live at 4935 Northcott. Are there any members of the Stormwater Utility Council present? Okay, well, this is mostly about the stormwater runoff utilities. I assume the intent of their meeting today was to try and convince us to pay more for something that's, well, that wasn't wanted in the first place, that is inaccurate and ineffective. I'd like to see them try and talk me into spending more money on something I don't want. I can feel comfortable proving that their estimating of the square footage of impermeable surface is inaccurate. And I've already talked to them about that, and I'm finding out what their process is in determining that, and I'll be back for the other meeting. If you want to see that it is working or not working, I've been sending them pictures of my flooded street every time I send in my bill for the stormwater runoff. That's it. I'll be back.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Again, just for those who might have walked in a few minutes late, due to the mayor's unexpected absence, we're going to postpone the discussion of the stormwater utility, which is an overall discussion of this council on how we might continue or discontinue or change what we're currently doing with regard to stormwater in the future. So unfortunately, due to the mayor's absence and the need of having each council member's voice heard, that discussion is going to be postponed to a later date. We're going to, of course, be announcing that and publicizing that.
Do we know the date right now?
We do not at this time, because it's because of just for.
Want to talk about it?
They understood that many people here might want to talk about it, and we apologize. It was an unexpected absence, and that's why, due to the notice, we published on our website about a little after 4 o'clock, once we knew the mayor was unable to attend the meeting. So apologies for the late notice of the absence. However, we're going to decide quickly when that meeting will occur and provide plenty of public notice, because clearly there's a significant amount of interest here, of people here, and I assume people who might have seen that announcement or people who were here at the beginning of the meeting who've since left. I've seen a couple of people walk out as well. So we will ensure that there's plenty of public notice so that people know when that meeting will occur, because I recognize it's an important topic. Commissioner Jose.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I realize my seeking recognition at this point is a little unorthodox, but I did want to note that we are taking public comment on the stormwater issue, so just in case folks are unable to make the next meeting, we can still get their comments on the record.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sir, you've been waiting patiently. Thank you.
My name is Joe Ralston, that's R-O-Y-S-T-O-N, from 435 Grant Street. I've been a citizen here in Downers Grove for 31 years, and this is the first time I've attended one of these meetings, so shame on me for that. But, I don't have a dog in this fight, other than just being a good citizen and a taxpayer. I just kind of wondered why this gentleman had been in business here for 75 years, he wasn't allowed to grandfather in his sign. I mean, I moved to Downers Grove because it reminded me, just the name reminded me of where I grew up in East Tennessee. Of course, I was fortunate enough to grow up in a town that's over 200 years old, and they take pride in their signs on their walls. They've got, you know, so I mean, when I was in high school, the town actually paid to have a mail pouch sign redone. Now, I know nowadays you wouldn't want to advertise chewing tobacco, but I guess that's a different argument. But anyway, I just, although I've never met this gentleman before tonight, I just felt sad for him after 75 years that some leeway wasn't given, that couldn't have been grandfathered in. And my pledge to the rest of my citizens here is that I will take a more active part in what goes on in Downers Grove from now on. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate your comments.
Hi there.
Hi there.
My name is Carla Cash. I live at 5219 Grand Avenue. I've been a resident of Downers Grove for nearly 13 years. I'm here also to speak in favor for the painted wall sign. If I seem a little shaky, it's because this is really out of my comfort zone. I too felt pretty bad for Mr. Peterson, and I'm only sorry that I didn't know about this sooner. I'd first like to tell Mr. Peterson that I like the painted company sign. And I think that kind of the small town you were talking about, to me, it looks very classic, very small townish to me. I don't think it's an eyesore at all. I'm a former Downers Grove small business owner, and in the short time I owned and operated my business, I realized quickly how hard it is to run a business in this small town, so I congratulate him for being open for so long. I speak passionately and personally, and I empathize with him. Kudos to him for fighting what he believes in. This painted wall case is a ridiculous amount of wasted time, money, and effort by our village, both past and present. I feel pursuing it further is a further waste of money. The village should be making it easier for small businesses to thrive. In defending the village's position, one of the village councilmen told me that the village has offered several compromises and amendments in the past. Now I'm not sure what those were, but for whatever reasons, they didn't work out. So let's just move forward. At the end of tonight, we are still talking about a really expensive sign. Obviously, Mr. Peterson is very passionate about this sign. So just let the guy have the sign and save the rest of the money that's going to be spent. It's clear to me a compromise can be made. Perhaps we can follow the spirit of the recent Lemon Tree Agreement, which an exception appears to have been made to help a small business survive. I quote our own Mayor Tully from this recent Lemon Tree Agreement, and it suits this situation very nicely. He says, "The village will gain more from the business succeeding than from collecting the $25,000. We could stand on principle and end up with a closed business and no money." Thank you.
Thank you very much. Further comments this time?
My name is Richard Bennett. I live at 308 Shady Lane and have lived there for 46 years. And I didn't come here to provide input, actually. I came here because of the stormwater business, but I would like to say that I have been affected by the sign ordinance, that the signs that are up now don't convey as much information, and I am spending more money outside of the village in places where I can find out what the prices are than I used to in the past. And so the sign ordinance has reduced a little bit the sales tax income for the village because I'm spending my money someplace else where I know what the prices are, where they have signs that tell me that.
Thank you very much, sir. Further comments this time? Mr. Peterson, if we could let folks that haven't spoken yet the chance. Appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Molly Scoggin. I'm a Downers Grove resident at 6661 Dunham Road. My husband and I are also local business owners in town. I'm here to talk about stormwater, your favorite topic of the night, and I will certainly be back for the next meeting. But my current lament about the plan that was at least sort of previewed to residents is the fact that it is my belief that the southern half of Downers Grove is being neglected in that plan, and of course, that's where I live. I was here 2 years ago on July 15th and sort of spoke to and pled to the council about the property that I live on, which borders Prentice Creek. And it's my understanding that Lacey Creek, St. Joseph Creek, and Prentice Creek are the three main stormwater management systems in Downers Grove. And there is not $1 earmarked for Prentice Creek, which runs at least from Woodward to Main Street, borders all of my property, and is a complete disaster area. It is still water on half of it, and it's absolutely dry and weedy and overrun on the other half of it. But it doesn't run. It's not a creek. It should definitely be earmarked for some sort of improvement. And based on the amount of reading that I did on what they're proposing, once they approve the $40 million rollout for the rest of Downers Grove to get stormwater abatement, this has at least another 16 years till maybe it'll come up again on an agenda to be touched. At that point, I'll have lived in Downers Grove for 22 years next to a complete cesspool of a creek that doesn't run, isn't maintained by the village, and is completely neglected and unacceptable. So I just wanted to bring that up now. I'll certainly be back for the larger meeting, but I'm now going to be running into 2 years of talking to you and pleading, and I can't really understand why Prentice Creek isn't part of the overall stormwater plan. So you'll keep hearing from me. Thanks.
Thank you very much for your comments. Are there further folks that haven't spoken yet who want to speak at this time?
Hi, I'm Kent Connors, 1846 Grant Street. I don't have a specific criticism, but I'm concerned about stormwater management, which is, big deal. But the thing that sort of bothers me philosophically is, and, I started to read the report, I haven't got through the whole thing, so maybe it's kind of addressed, but on one hand, I totally agree with the idea of offering incentives to people to reduce the sources of runoff. That seems pretty smart philosophically. But at the same time, I see public works, not just the village, but in general, municipal, park district, and other entities paving areas, which of course is at odds with reducing sources of runoff. So, I don't know, maybe the staff has thought about that. I mean, for example, I've seen pavement added to parks. And I know personally in my neighborhood, there was no groundswell of neighborhood demand for saying we need paved paths in these parks. It's like, but they were paved. It's like, and this is very recently. And as well as a sidewalk program, I understand that certain people want sidewalks, other people don't, but I see, sidewalks so far they're solid concrete and they all produce runoff really well. So there seems to be a bit of cross purposes going on here, so I just would like the staff and the village to think about that going forward.
Thank you very much for your comments. Further comments?
John Spreet, 1209 Jefferson. I've issued my agenda and backup documentation to the village previously, to the stormwater email. I hope everybody's had a chance to review it and digest it. Guess not? Okay, I'll need a couple hours. The issue of fees for stormwater. Since day one, I've argued that they're just not fair. You know, why should someone that has a large property with a lot of area that does not put much stormwater into the creeks or into the stormwater system pay more money than someone who puts their whole property into the stormwater, into the creeks and stormwater system? So I've been researching ongoing. Some communities have just flat fees per parcel. Others, like Downers Grove, have the non-impervious based fees. And that makes sense if there's additional information calculated. One of which is, an example is Raleigh, North Carolina. They have an additional chart that calculates a deck differently. A concrete deck is 100% impervious, non-impervious. Whereas a wood deck that allows water through, in their chart, they calculate the square footage as 50% of the square footage being non-impervious. And there's a lot of different variations in different communities. More progressive communities, like San Antonio, Texas, for instance, include the non-impervious area. Then they calculate it as a percentage of the total property that's impervious, which is a lot more fairer approach than just taking a satellite photo from space to calculate, you know, how much concrete you have and how much roof area you have. You have a large property with a long driveway, all of a sudden you're bounced into the second tier instead of the first tier, even though you're not even putting hardly any stormwater into the system. Which leads to the next topic of best practices. I know the village has a lot of documentation on that with newer developments and underground swimming pools, et cetera, and detention ponds for other communities. For existing properties, though, best practices are basically to maintain 75% of the stormwater on your own property. That's the goal. Many means of doing that. There's lots of documentation on how to do that, from rain gardens and such. The village's website has a great area that describes rain gardens, and everybody's seen the pretty pictures. To put that pretty picture in the average yard is like $3,000 to $5,000 on average, if not more. So your $300 incentive isn't much of an incentive to the average property owner. So I'd sure like to see the village do more with that. And other best practice areas, and I have examples of those from other communities too. Instead of having a rain garden, break it up, do smaller ones in ideal areas or areas of specific rainwater that people can do themselves without having a landscaping crew spend $5,000 to put it in for them. Those you can do gradually over time, replanting the area with natural vegetation. There's areas like McDonald Farm that is great. They have all kinds of examples right there and expertise to help you with that type of stuff. DuPage County has a lot of resources too with their workshops. And education is another topic, educating people to do all of this. Just a pretty picture on the website turns a lot of people off because they see the $5,000 price tag and that's the end of it. So, next topic, the swamp, which is a major topic of stormwater in our neighborhood. The village-owned property between Jefferson Avenue and 59th Street, 1100 block, has not been maintained by the village even though it owns it. I've discussed it at nauseum with Mayor Krajewski, Mayor Tully, Karen Dalton-Lang, Dave Olson, and others. And the bottom line is, I'm always told, oh, it's a wetland. You can't touch it, can't do anything. Oh my God, we have to have a survey done. We have to look at all the plants. We have to do permits. We've got to do all this. We don't have any funding. Well, that's great. Residents have taken care of this for many, many years. About the last 5 years, we haven't been able to even get into it. The cattails are 8-10 feet tall. They're taking over everything else. Animal life is reduced. The only thing left are muskrats and coyotes. Where do we go from here? What does it take the village to maintain their property? I've looked at the agenda. I don't see it on there. Maybe it's a low priority, but with a minimal degree of work, neighbors can help maintain it then again. So I'd like to see that addressed at some point. It just keeps being pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, and our yards are not only increasing water, but mosquitoes. because more water's entering our property than is exiting our property at this point, every time we get medium range, like 2-inch rainfall. So, in lieu of that, please review my documentation. A lot of facts, a lot of statistics are there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Further comments this time?
So my name is Debbie Janisek, 5826 Brookbank Road, and I live by the swamp behind John. I am very concerned about the whole stormwater project. As I look at things, my house will be there when you decide to change and revamp things. So I guess I have a personal concern. Are you paying me for my house to be gone? What are we doing with the house? As we look at this project, I'm not on that, the house is not there anymore. I'm going to echo again what John's saying. We've maintained this area for a long time. It's been neglected. No one's done nothing. I've seen so many people come out and do surveys. Nothing happens. It's simple. There's not a lot to maintain. Take down a lot of these cattails, trim things. We can help to maintain the creek, but no one's done nothing. And as we've talked, there's water everywhere. Permaseal came in 2 years ago because we got flooded so badly, and we shouldn't have had to be. We really shouldn't have, if things would have just been maintained on a simple basis. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Boy, you're getting a lot from people on the swamp, aren't you? My name's Don Kaiser, 1215 Jefferson. Mr. Olson, talked with you when you were campaigning. You met me at Men's Club. We talked about the issue of the swamp. And I think it comes down to something that's really simple. And it comes back to maintenance, like the previous two speakers have brought to you. It's like taking a glass of water half full and filling it up with ice cubes. That retention basin was probably designed or meant to take a certain volume of water. With all the silt, cattails, all the other detriment that's flowing into it, it cannot hold the amount of water. My property, 1215 Jefferson, takes all that overflow, and now I'm designated on a floodplain. However, I don't see the village offering me money so that I can store storm water for the village, because I'm getting storm water from 5 blocks around, and it needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Further comments? Yes, ma'am, please. The lady behind Mr. Peterson that wanted to speak. If, Mr. Peterson, if you, I want her to speak.
Good evening, members of the Downers Grove Council, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Violet Rodwell. I live at 5410 Grand Avenue. I am here to say something. I am so happy to inform each and every one of you that when I read the paper that Commissioner David Olson is now a part of the College of DuPace Board of Trustees, my heart, and with your wisdom and independent mind, you would be a big asset to the College of DuPace. I thank you very much. That's the only thing I would like to say tonight. God bless you.
Thank you. I'd ask people to refrain from applause, even though I appreciate it. I appreciate the sentiment.
She did get the $10 you offered her.
Further comments from folks? Mr. Peterson, I know you've spoken before, but if you just keep your comments very brief, please.
Well, I just forgot a few things. I noticed that you had a cute little diagrams up here about Downers Grove, and does anybody here know who are the oldest companies in Downers Grove still here? Maybe not. Nobody pays attention. You've got myself, over 80 years, Stevens Plumbing, over 80 years, the Tivoli, which I see up here, for over 80 years, and Dickey Tool for over 80 years. There's no appreciation for the companies that have been here that you advertise in your little catalog that you put out to the citizens, that you're grateful for these businesses being here for so long, contributing to Downers Grove through just simple taxes and being here. There's nothing about it. You probably don't even know that we're all here. Now you do because you know I'm here. The other thing is that I just got word today through the grapevine that Warren Avenue is being downgraded from an M1 zoning to a apartment complex in the future. One of my neighbors brought that up to me just this afternoon by about 5 o'clock, that the village is going to be rezoning Warren Avenue on the south side of the street. So if I try to sell my business or my building, I can't unless it's to a developer that's going to build condos or apartment buildings. Don't we have any say-so what to do with our properties anymore? Or is it just up to the village to do what they want and tell me what I have to do? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Further comments? Hearing none, we'll close public comment and move to item 6 on our agenda. And I did want to thank everyone for their comments. Again, our apologies on the mayor's unexpected absence, and look forward to hearing from many of you spoke about the stormwater issue, and look forward to hearing many of you at future meetings. Obviously, there are ways you can communicate with us via email or letters. Mr. Fieldman, did you want to talk briefly about ways that people could communicate with the council in the interim, or in case that perhaps they might not be able
Sure,
to
you could
attend?
send comments directly on a program on our website called Remarks. Just click there. You can submit comments that way. You can also send us an email at swutility.us, at downers.us. The information is on our website. And also, if you would like to pick up the phone and call any one of us, staff or council, all of our phone numbers are listed on the website as well. We're happy to hear from each and every one of them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fieldman. We'll move on to item 6 on our consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mayor Pro Tem, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Is there any discussion from members of the audience on the consent agenda? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner White?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldeck?
Aye.
Commissioner Patino? Aye. Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Olson?
Aye. That matter passes unanimously. The next item, item 7, is our active agenda. There's one item. Is there a motion with regard to item 7A?
Mayor Pro Tem, I move that this council adopt an ordinance providing for the authorization to appoint a new bond registrar and paying agent for the village's outstanding bonds as presented.
Second.
Is there any discussion from members of the public on this item? Hearing none, any discussion from members of the village council? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner White?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldeck?
Aye.
Commissioner Patino? Aye. Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Olson?
Aye. That matter passes unanimously. Finally, that brings us to item 8, our first reading agenda. We have one item on the first reading agenda, and I'll turn it over to Manager Fieldman to present this item.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Only one item on tonight's first reading agenda, which is a resolution authorizing an agreement with Housel Levine Associates for an update to our comprehensive plan and downtown zoning project. Here to present additional information on this item is our Community Development Director, Stan Popovich.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. As Manager Fieldman noted, it's an agreement for two of our top priority action items, the comprehensive plan update and the review of the downtown zoning area there as well. With the comprehensive plan, that project will entail a review of the existing plan and to ensure that it is being implemented as intended. Also, the plan has two alternatives in it. The first is an alternative to develop a sub-area along 63rd Street. That is recommended from the village staff that we implement that. It is based on another discussion which is taking place on a top priority action item, which is enhance the sales tax base. So that recommendation is coming from them and from staff to implement that alternative to create a sub-area plan for 63rd Street. The second one, which is at your discretion, is a sub-area plan for 75th Street. Again, that would be at council discretion there. Staff does not have a recommendation on that one. The second focus of the agreement tonight before you is a review of the downtown zoning. That plan is to examine the zoning classifications in and around the downtown, also to examine various uses and densities and various development regulations that affect development in the downtown area and the surrounding area immediately around it. Staff is recommending Housel Levine for both tasks. Housel Levine has completed multiple projects here in the village for us, including the award-winning 2011 comprehensive plan that we're looking to update. Staff and Housel Levine will be assisted by a ad hoc committee, comprehensive plan committee, similar to what we did last time with the comprehensive plan committee, which would meet on a monthly basis to obtain public comment and also to go over and review the comprehensive plan. The idea there is to go over chapter by chapter, and then with the downtown zoning the same night, review those programs as we move forward. With regard to schedule, we're looking to start in March and have everything completed and before you by December of this year. If there's any questions that I can answer at this time, I'd be happy to answer those for you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Popovich. I'd first like to open it for any questions or comments from members of the Village Council this time. Commissioner White.
As many of you may know, I was chair of the ad hoc when we did this back in 2011. And on the topic of sub-areas, there was discussion at that time of doing a sub-area, both 75th and Lamont, and was basically 63rd and Woodward, the Meadowbrook Shopping Center. It was decided that there were a number of sub-areas already considered. It was just a little bit too much to get to at that one time. I strongly support doing both sub-areas, both 75th and Lamont and 63rd. The Meadowbrook shopping area is an area that definitely needs the village's attention. Yes, 75th and Lamont, in my opinion, has greater upside potential as a future generator of sales tax. So to take a look at how we can improve 75th and Lamont, I think has more upside potential, but we also have to do something about trying to revitalize 63rd, you know, what was commonly called the Meadowbrook Center. So I would strongly support adding both sub-areas to the plan.
Thank you, Commissioner. Further comments from members of the Village Council? Commissioner Barnett.
Thanks. I'm fine, once we're into studying this thing, we might as well study 75th and 63rd if that's what folks want to do. The sub-area plans are essentially similar to some of the smaller area plans that are in the existing comp plan. In other words, recommended future land uses is really the primary issue, right?
Correct, yes. And looking at developing potentially catalyst sites as well.
Sure. So identifying catalyst sites and commenting on whether or not existing land use ought to be different down the road?
Correct.
Okay. So I understand Commissioner White's desire to make the most of those areas, and certainly that's a goal of everybody. I'm not a little skeptical we'll come up with a lot of changes to our land use intentions as a function of trying to do that. It's really, I think, more of an economic development issue, but happy to study it. The bigger issue to me in this subject matter is the downtown zoning. I've commented on that several times over the last couple of years, and there's certainly challenges we've all endured in the last couple of years relative to this subject probably not being visited recently enough. Do we anticipate that these would go kind of in parallel, or the zoning, downtown zoning commentary with relative to the comp plan adjustments or sub-areas? My point is, I would have liked us to get into the zoning last year for downtown. Sure. So I'm hopeful that those will be, at the very least, parallel, perhaps even first in the process. I'm concerned, I remain concerned that there are opportunities in the downtown with the existing zoning to allow us to face similar situations that we face with Edwards House Marquee on Maple. And I'd like to try and head that off. I think there's some zoning downtown that doesn't match residents' expectations. So the longer we don't address that, the more concerned I am. The risk's higher to us of not getting into it. So do you see these parallel, or how do you see that working out?
The intent is completely parallel, so we'd have two parallel paths. The intent is every meeting that we would have with the ad hoc comprehensive plan committee would include both a comp plan section and then a downtown zoning section. The intent is to look at the comprehensive plan and the downtown sub-area plan and pull that out almost immediately.
Okay.
And start working through that, and then on parallel paths, run both projects at the same time.
Okay. I'm fully supportive of this. I think it's a good use of our resources in terms of planning. We should be doing it on a regular basis anyway. Adding 63rd and 75th makes sense. Let's just not let that one somehow slip if at all possible.
No, the intent is both parallel at the same time.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner. Further discussion, Commissioner Waldeck?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We've been served well, I believe, by House Jill Levine in the comp plan, and as far back as I can remember, the residents have made 63rd Street and the 75th Street corridors a high priority. They wanted something done, and I think having the option with 63rd Street and adding 75th Street to the process, I think at this time will do us good to do it earlier rather than trying to get together and doing this at a later time. Also, I think the publicity regarding doing the comp plan and talking about 63rd and 75th may perk up the ears of some potential opportunities. So I fully support this measure and adding the 75th Street option. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Jose?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I kind of see in the same vein as Commissioner Barnett that the 75th Street piece is more of an economic development piece as opposed to a land use piece. And I share Commissioner White's concern for that area. I think that it's absolutely vital for continued economic development to take place down in the 75th and Lamont corridor. With regard to 63rd Street, you see land use questions. We've had a number of conflicts and potential conflicts from just east of Main Street to the western border of the village. So it makes sense to talk about that in the comprehensive plan because you're talking about land use and what do we want this area to look like 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. With regard to 75th and Lamont, we know what it's going to look like. We just don't know what's going to be there in terms of the commercial activity. And I think that's more economic development than it is land use. So I'm not sure it's necessarily prime for the comprehensive plan. That said, I don't feel particularly strongly about it, and if folks want to include it, have at it. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Fatimo, did you want to?
I just want to say I like the idea. I agree with it, and anything to improve that 75th area. I'm from the south side and definitely needs it, so happy to see it.
Okay, 2 points.
Thank you. Commissioner White?
Okay. First, it is my opinion and hope that the comprehensive plan can be seen somewhat more expansive than broadly than simply land use. That is a vision of what the community is going to look like. And I'll say on the record, I've advocated before that a chapter on economic development be added to the comp plan as part of this process. I also agree that taking a look at the downtown zoning is extremely important. And I've expressed the opinion previously that this gives us an opportunity to see whether the recommendations that were made in 2011 were actually followed through on between 2011 and the debacle we had with Marquis and Maple as a local learning experience. So I do want that to be a very high priority as well.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll just add that I think the idea of going forward, it seems very reasonable, looking forward to these projects and looking forward to including both the 63rd and 75th Street areas, as clearly they're both important areas for the community. Are there any comments or questions from members of the public on this item? Hearing none, I believe that concludes the first reading.
It does, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That moves us to item 9, Mayor's Report. There is no Mayor's Report. Item 10, Council Member Reports. Do members of the Village Council have items they wish to report on at this time?
I do, David.
Commissioner Barnett.
Just a little plug here, if you'll bear with me. A reminder that on Thursday, February 25th, the Grove Foundation has their annual Passport to Fine Dining event. For those that haven't attended that in the past, it really is a lot of fun. I'd encourage people to do it. It's a one-price ticket, buys essentially a series of kind of progressive dining small plates throughout the village. When we've done that, my wife and I in the past, we've gotten a bunch of friends and neighbors and made a sort of a walking evening out of it. It's a lot of fun. This is the 25th year anniversary of the Grove Foundation. If you don't know what they do, thegrovefoundation.org is a good place to start, and you can also get information there about getting tickets to Passport to Fine Dining.
Thank you, Commissioner Barnett. Does anyone else have items? Commissioner Waldeck.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem again. Final call for the Star Wars Costume Bash held by the Community Adult Day Center at Gloria Day 4501 Main. This will be February 20th. It's from 6 to 8 o'clock. Intentionally, because from 6 to 8 for the attendance of children. So it's for people of all ages, and costumes are optional. There'll be games and prizes, and it'll help support the Community Adult Day Center, but it should be a lot of fun, so come on out, February 20th. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other council member reports at this time? Hearing none, we're going, as I mentioned before, item 11 and 12 are with regard to the stormwater utility discussion. Given the mayor's absence, we're not going to move through those at this time. So we'll move to item 13, the council member new business. Commissioner Barnett, I know you had placed this on the agenda, and I guess I'll turn it over to you at this time.
I did, David. Thank you for bringing that up and the opportunity to speak. This was appropriately placed after our stormwater utility discussion, and it really probably should remain there, so I'd like to just postpone that as well. With
If there's no objection from members of the council, we'll ask that this be placed after the stormwater utility discussion when we have that discussion. And just as a further note of new business, just ask that we obviously work with the mayor and staff to ensure that we can, as quickly as possible, schedule the stormwater utility discussion to allow as much public notice as possible of the rescheduled initial part of the discussion. And I'll just note, for the record also, that this stormwater utility discussion is going to be the first part in a multi-part series of discussions about the stormwater utility, our stormwater system in the village, and how that we as a council, as elected representatives of the people here and the people of this town, should move forward with that. So I'm really looking forward to that discussion with the full composition of the village council. So with that, unless anyone else has anything else, Commissioner Barnett?
I just want to tag on your comment about stormwater. David's right, this is a multi-part conversation that's going to go for a while. And it's important that we get input, and so I just encourage everybody, not only those here tonight, to continue to come, but others that are out there watching to come, but also to reach out to us as things come to your mind, at the risk of getting a bunch of inbox mail messages from my colleagues. As you get questions or thoughts or something pops in your head and you wish you'd have said that, just send them to us. We're debating this issue amongst ourselves, how to go forward, and that means a lot of different things. It doesn't mean any one project or a utility rate, or it's a whole host of subjects we're going to consider about what does stormwater look like in the village and how do we handle it. So any kind of input that anybody has, please don't hesitate to forward it to us, not just tonight, not just after tonight, but over the next probably couple of months.
Thank you, Commissioner Barnett. I think we all agree with those sentiments, that we are obviously looking to be engaged with the community throughout this discussion, because this is a very, very important discussion, as we've heard tonight from the folks here, their views on specific issues in the neighborhood, overall issues with the system. We're really looking forward to that discussion as that begins very soon. With that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner White?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldeck?
Aye.
Commissioner Battimo?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Olson?
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you. Have a great evening.